Check out this wonderfully neutral aesthetic. Hello everyone. Can you believe it's already been a week since my last video? It's felt more like 4. You might be wondering why I'm in this very barren, echoey room. And it's because I'm moving again. Yeah, I know we haven't lived here very long, but this is a city we used to live in before, and it's become sort of our little intermediary city where we decide where we want to go next. And the place we are moving to next is Vancouver. So that's going to be a big change. I've been looking it up, and the greater Vancouver area has over 2.5 million people in it. And the little county of Vancouver that we're going to be living in has over 600,000. So to put that into a bit of a perspective, the smaller county area that we're going to be living in is 1,200% larger than the city we're in now. So this will be interesting. And since we are moving there and we've been talking to different people about it, something that's come up a lot lately is this whole concept of home. I've had a lot of people saying things to me like, oh, you're moving pretty far away from home. Do you think you're going to get homesick? If you're not used to it, do you think you'll feel at home in such a big city? And it got me thinking about this word and how I've never really felt connected to it the same way that all these other people seem to be. And because it's been on my mind a lot lately, I've realized that I think it has a lot to do with why I'm moving to Vancouver and why we've probably moved around a whole lot in the first place. So to try to explain this, let me go back a little bit. I grew up in a much smaller town. When I moved away from that town back in 2011, I think there was about 15 or 16,000 people in that city. And growing up there as a young gay kid, even before I came out or even realized it myself, I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't a very, let's say, good place to be. I realized that that town was never going to be a place that I was going to feel comfortable in or accepted or even safe, I guess. So almost immediately after graduation, me and my still current boyfriend moved 2.5 hours east to a bit bigger city. The one we're currently in right now, actually. And we lived here for a couple years after that. And although it was considerably better than the town that we came from, it still had that small town redneck mentality to it, so we still never felt comfortable here. So that feeling mixed with the desire to get away from the negative 40-degree winters we have up here, we packed up and moved another 10 hours south, down near the US border, to a slightly bigger city. We lived there for another 2 years, and although it didn't have the same backwoods redneck mentality to it, we realized it was a very religious area. So we still never really felt comfortable there either. So jump to now, we've lived here for a few months and we've decided to move to Vancouver. Now I know it's kind of become a bit of a cliche for every gay person on the west side of Canada to move to Vancouver, but as we've found out, clearly there's a very good reason for that. For me, however, there's a much more personal, almost sentimental reason for wanting to move there. A few years ago, me, my boyfriend, and a friend of ours drove down to Vancouver for the Gay Pride Parade. And I think it'd be pretty safe to classify that trip as a culture shock for me. There were over 650,000 people that showed up to the Pride Parade that year, and that fact almost overwhelmed me because that's over 43 of my hometown's worth of people that showed up to celebrate something that I had been made to feel ashamed of for the majority of my life. So that alone was a pretty important part of my life, but it was actually something considerably smaller that gave me that sentimental attachment for wanting to move to Vancouver. We were just walking around downtown Vancouver somewhere, and at one point Eli reached over and grabbed my hand and he smiled at me. And I remember just smiling back at him and giving his hand a little squeeze, and we kept on walking. And that was it. That was the whole moment. It took like 2 seconds. But we'd been together for about a year at that point, and that was the first time in our entire relationship that we had ever held hands in public. And it still remains, to this day, actually, one of the only times we have. And I have never felt more comfortable with myself or in our relationship than I did at that moment, in that city. So, to all the people who keep asking me how I'm going to deal with moving away from the town I grew up in, or am I going to feel at home in such a bigger city, I don't know, honestly. But if I can live in a place where I don't have to look over my shoulder each time I want to show the smallest bit of affection to my boyfriend of 5 years, it's definitely going to be worth a shot. And I'm going to have a hell of a better chance of being happy in that place than I ever will here. So I might be nervous and quite a bit anxious and just a little bit scared to move to such a big place, but I think it's going to be worth it. And it's definitely going to be exciting. So stick around for that, I guess. All right, I think that's all I want to talk about today. Just get that out there. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.